Hey there, and welcome to the weekly Asylum and Immigration Reform Update, where I share with you 5 recent stories of interest to asylum seekers and those who want to stay current on immigration news. This week, we're discussing
Judge orders Trump government not to deport Colombia student detained at citizenship interview. Federal court blocks termination of legal status for over 500,000 immigrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. El Salvador's president refuses to return wrongfully deported Maryland resident despite court ruling. New policy allows dismissal of asylum claims without hearings, raising significant due process concerns. Mass deportation emails cause widespread panic after being sent indiscriminately to immigrants and citizens.
I'm Brian Manning, and I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now, as an asylum lawyer, I help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. It's my pleasure to bring you asylum and immigration reform updates each week right here on the Political Asylum Lawyers YouTube channel. Okay, let's get to the news. First up,
a United States federal judge in Vermont has ordered the Trump government not to deport Mohsen Madawi, a Columbia University student and Palestinian activist who was arrested upon arriving for his citizenship interview. Judge William Sessions prohibited authorities from removing Madawi from the country or transferring him out of Vermont. Born in a West Bank refugee camp, Madawi intends to return to Columbia for a master's degree this fall. His case resembles that of Mahmoud Khalil, another Columbia student detained in March and now facing deportation after a Louisiana immigration judge's ruling last Friday. Madawi was handcuffed and removed from an immigration office during what was supposed to be the final step in his citizenship process. Vermont's congressional delegation, including Senator Bernie Sanders, called the detention immoral, inhumane, and illegal, stating the legal resident deserves due process. Trump officials maintain that student visa holders supporting Palestinians face deportation for allegedly threatening U.S. foreign policy interests.
And next up, for update number 2.
A federal judge has blocked the Trump administration from ending the legal status of hundreds of thousands of immigrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela who entered the U.S. legally under a Biden-era program. U.S. District Court Judge Indira Talwani ruled that mass parole terminations cannot occur without case-by-case review, halting deportation warnings, and prohibiting officials from canceling protections set to expire April 24th. The ruling impacts 532,000 immigrants admitted through the CHNV program, which allowed participants to fly to the U.S. after securing American sponsorship, granting them 2-year work permits. Judge Talwani stated that early termination without any case-by-case justification for non-citizens who complied with Department of Homeland Security programs undermines the rule of law. This decision marks another setback for the administration's efforts to dismantle Biden-era immigration protections, following a similar ruling last month preventing termination of temporary protected status for 350,000 Venezuelans.
All right, time for our third immigration update.
During a White House meeting characterized by friendly exchanges, El Salvador President Nayib Bukele stated he would not return Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a Maryland resident mistakenly deported by U.S. authorities despite having protection from removal. "How can I send back a criminal to the United States? Smuggle a terrorist in?" Bukele said, calling the question absurd despite the Supreme Court decision that requires the administration to facilitate Abrego Garcia's return. Trump commended Bukele for really helping us out by accepting deported migrants at El Salvador's infamous mega prison Seco, while expressing desire to deport as many as possible to the facility. Attorney General Pam Bondi and Secretary of State Marco Rubio both maintained that Abrego Garcia's fate is El Salvador's decision, with Rubio stating that the foreign policy of the U.S. is conducted by the president, not by a court. Human rights organizations have condemned conditions at Seco, where cells lack windows and ventilation, and prisoners are confined 24 hours daily except for brief exercise periods.
And moving right along, update number 4.
The Trump administration is implementing a policy that allows immigration judges to dismiss legally deficient asylum cases without holding a hearing, according to an April 11th memo from the Executive Office for Immigration Review. This change permits judges to reject asylum applications based solely on the paperwork submitted, potentially eliminating the opportunity for applicants to present their case in court. Acting Director Cersei Owen referenced the almost 4 million pending immigration cases, including 1.5 million asylum applications, as justification for the policy shift. Immigration experts warn the policy will disproportionately impact asylum seekers without legal representation, who struggle with language barriers and complex application procedures. The American Immigration Lawyers Association estimates it takes experienced attorneys 50 to 75 hours to prepare a typical asylum application. Ben Johnson, the organization's executive director, emphasized the stakes, noting that if you get it wrong and send somebody back home who actually faces persecution, then that person will be persecuted. The directive follows layoffs of over 100 immigration court personnel.
And finally, our fifth immigration update for this week.
Hundreds of thousands of immigrants in New York City and beyond are receiving concerning mass emails from the Department of Homeland Security stating, "It is time for you to depart the United States," and warning that the federal government will locate you. The emails claim that recipients' immigration parole, temporary authorization to remain in the U.S. for humanitarian reasons, has been terminated. Immigration attorneys report the untargeted communications, which lack individual names, have created widespread confusion and panic, particularly because they've reached unintended recipients including U.S. citizens and immigration lawyers themselves. CBP spokesperson Steve Bansbach acknowledged some emails may have been misdirected, but insisted the threats should be taken seriously, declaring, "If you are an alien, being in the United States is a privilege, not a right." The emails follow the administration's March announcement revoking humanitarian parole for immigrants in the Cuban, Haitian, Nicaraguan, and Venezuelan program, an action temporarily blocked by a federal judge on Monday. Attorneys criticized the mass communications for failing to consider individual circumstances.
And that wraps up this week's immigration news. If you want to win asylum in the United States, then you should call my office today. We help people all over the country, so it doesn't matter where you are. Call us now to schedule an asylum strategy session so that we can help you secure your future in America through asylum. Again, I'm Brian Manning, and it's an honor to serve you in your immigration journey.